Hi, everybody. It's the CC&JT Amateur Hour where production values go to die. This one over here is CC.
And this is JT.
And again, we're doing our interview the author thing that we like to do every couple of weeks where we invite independent authors to come on and just say, hey, this is how we do what we do. And we've been having so much fun. And this great, we've been interviewing authors from around the world. We got to do Ron Roman, from South Korea. We did Tori oh gosh.
Oh.
We've
done interviews in Costa Rica and in the UK as well.
And so we're now going to the venture to the far off land of Idaho, where we have the honor and pleasure of interviewing Gail Grant Park. Gail, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we are excited to have you. So, as I said, we've interviewed so many people around the world, and we've found out so many commonalities despite our vast differences, and we're going to be talking about that, and this is going to be fun. So for now, though, tell us about yourself and tell us about your work.
Well, I actually grew up in Massachusetts. Idaho is not my home, so I'm a Yankee, and I started doing writing only recently, 2019. I got into a writing group that my daughter was in. She's a poet, and she invited me to join her writing group. And I had not really written anything to speak of except my journal, and I had done a couple of biographies of my ancestors and my parents' history and things like that. So I had so much fun with it, they did an anthology and invited me to participate with a short story, and I did a short story in that, and that was my first published work. It was in a book called Rainfall, the Rainy Day Writers Anthology. We were in Washington State, which is a rainy state, so they were the Rainy Day Writers. And my story was it was called Escape in Three Movements. It was about the Cold War in Berlin and the coming down, the escapees who were leaving East Germany for West Germany, over the wall or under the wall or however they could do it. And that was inspired because we had, as a military family, my husband did 24 years in the Army. We were stationed in Germany and happened to be in Berlin the day they uplifted Checkpoint Charlie and opened the Berlin Wall. And we took sledgehammers to the wall and got pieces of the wall. And just that whole experience was so visceral, and it stayed with me for so long that when I was asked to do a short story, that said, I got to write about that. That was my introduction to writing, really, 2019. And then because we had people that were experienced in that group, one was an editor, had published a couple of books, one was a graphic designer, did the cover. So, and I knew I got a feel for how to do it and doing the whole Amazon self-publishing thing. So I just started writing my first book in 2020. It was during COVID. Mm-hmm. And what else are you going to do during COVID but write? I started writing then. And got it done it took about a year to do that first book. And I was so proud of it. I knew every editor in the world would want it and every publisher would want it. So I did the due diligence, sent out query letters, and got crickets, of course, back. But one indie publisher wrote back and said, we really like it, but we want our authors to write series. Is this a series? And I said, why yes, it is. I'm writing book 2 as we speak. So that's how the Gallagher Girls Mystery Series started.
That is so excellent. That is so excellent. So let's talk about your life experience applied to your writing. You mentioned that a military spouse traveled the world. And bluntly, this is something that all Americans should do.
Really?
We're a very parochial country. We're not like Europe. We're not like Asia, where we can just walk across the border. So how did your experience as a world traveler, not as traveler, but living in those countries? For example, Cece and I, we were in the Air Force, and you know how it is. And we did 3 years at Yokota, which is in Japan. How did living in another country shape your writing?
Well, I think it was huge because, just getting a worldview from another perspective and putting myself in their position and seeing the world through others' eyes was huge. These books that I wrote, it's a trilogy, a 3-book series, takes place in Ireland. And the first overseas station we were in was Belgium, which was an easy hop over the channel to the British Isles and Ireland. I had ancestors in Ireland and really wanted to visit the homeland. And so we went there, and I just was, I felt like home. Ireland felt like I was coming home. And so when I came to writing a book several years later, I wanted to put it in Ireland, and I had to become Irish. I'm 25% Irish, but that's the biggest 25%. It's mostly Irish. So I had to immerse myself in that culture. And it was easier for me to do that, having been around other people and knowing, well, not everybody talks the same as me. Not everybody eats the same kind of food as me. And so I knew it was a whole different culture that I had to immerse myself in.
We have that in common as well, because my mother was born and raised in Dublin. So I was raised with a very Irish family, even though I had never been to Ireland until 2016. We went over on our first trip. And that was also like coming home. I understand that feeling completely. There is a very strong tradition of storytelling in Irish culture. Do you feel that this factors into your writing as well, since you mentioned that you have at least 25% Irish?
In fact, the story, when I was 16, I started getting really interested in researching my family history. And I was fortunate because I lived in New England, and my family had come over with the Mayflower, but the Irish had come over in 1880, right after the big hunger. The effects of the famine were still being felt in Ireland at that time, and people had no work, they had no food. So 6 brothers in the family came over one at a time, paid for the others to come, that pattern of rolling over the immigration. And so I had all of that information. The cemeteries were all there, the records, the church records, the town records, and my family was all there. And so I interviewed relatives, and I got all these stories of my Irish ancestors. And they were so poignant and so visceral that I really wanted to share their stories in these books. So these are ghost stories, and the ghosts are basically many of my ancestors. And I tell their stories through these mysteries. And so I had this, even the 25% that comes from Canada, I used some of their stories, but I made them Irish. So they became Irish stories too. So, and the highest compliment I ever had, the best review on a book I had on Amazon, was when someone said, "The Irish are such great storytellers, and this is no exception." And I went, cha-ching, I'm passed off as Irish. I did it. So, yeah.
So that's all fabulous, and that's just wonderful. And I'm kind of struggling to come up with a question here, because and I guess, I hope I'm not out of line, but I feel an instant kinship here, because we do have so much in common. I feel like even though we met 15 minutes ago face to face, it feels like we've known each other like all our lives, because we do have that common military background, that common Irish background, and of course the writing. So, but let's talk about the craft of writing real quick. So, what is your comfort zone? Do you do these ghost stories, or now that you've got yourself dabbled, you're thinking maybe I should expand to another genre? Is it going to be ghost stories?
Funny you should ask that. I did these 3 books, and the first one I said took about 2 years, because I hired an Irish editor, and he helped me to see, like, I would put the main character is Moira Gallagher, and I had her winding along this country road, and he said, "Now, about 10 years ago, they turned that into a major highway. She's zipping, she's not meandering." So things like that, I changed, and I had a little bit of a love story in one where they met in chapter 3, and by the end of the book, they were planning their wedding. He said, no. That does not happen that fast in Ireland. You need to have another book in there or another story to stretch it out, because they are going to have a really long engagement. So things like that with the culture that made it more believable, because that's the way they do things over there. And then I hired an Irish cover designer, and he did all 3 covers, so they were all unified. And where was I going with this? The other books. So I did the 3 in the trilogy, and after the first one, I felt like I was a part of the story, and I was now just following these 3 sisters around and writing down what they were saying and doing, because it was so immersed in their life that the stories were just flowing, and I was just trying to keep up with them and what they were doing. So when the 3 books flowed really quickly, and then when I got to the end of book 3, it kind of tied things up, and I thought, crickets again. They're not talking to me anymore. So I turned to another project that I had wanted to do my whole life, practically 50 years, and it was a children's picture book. And that was a story of a camping trip that my family went on when I was 8 years old and my little sister was 5. And it was such a comical, exciting, imprinted in our minds story that was told over and over and over throughout the years that I knew I had to make a picture book out of it. But I am an artist, but I didn't feel comfortable illustrating a children's book. So it took me a long time to find the right illustrator. And then I had written out several texts for it and wasn't happy with that, and finally decided, despite some editors saying they don't like children's books that are rhyming, I disagreed. I love rhyming children's books. Dr. Seuss, come on. Come on. So I got the rhyme in and I hired the illustrator. We finally pulled it together last year and it was published past October. And it's called Rain or Shine, It's Camping Time. And so that was my first foray. And when it came out, everyone was saying, well, what happens next? What was their next camping trip? What did they do after that? So it may be that I delve into children's picture books a little more right now.
Well, that's fun because I also did a lot of camping as a kid. So I can imagine that there are probably kids in the city who've actually never done that. And I'm sure that the picture book would be a wonderful way for them to experience it kind of vicariously through you. But you mentioned needing to find an illustrator for that book, and then you hired both an Irish editor and an Irish cover designer.
Yeah, someone's thinking about that really hard here.
So how did you go about finding these people to help you with the book? Did you have contacts that helped you?
I found a website called reedsy.com, Reedsy, and it's kind of like they're the middleman so that they match you up with people. You put forth your proposal to 5 illustrators or 5 editors, and they send you their work, samples of their work, and you talk to them a little bit about what they would do for you, and then you pick one and hire them, and you pay Reedsy. Reedsy pays them after they've sent you. So there's no I've been scammed type thing. You have someone who's been vetted. And I guess I first came upon that because I was watching videos, workshop videos on YouTube, and there was one from Reedsy, and this one editor, the cover designer was on a panel and he was talking about his work and he was all kinds of awards. And I said, I want him to be my editor. He was from Ireland, my cover designer. And I loved his covers. So I went on Reedsy and found him and a few others, but mostly I already knew I wanted him. So yeah, and that's been really good. And they have continuing workshops that have been helpful. And I went back to the editor a second time, and I went to the illustrator 3 times for the covers.
So that's excellent. And it's fun when you find a cover designer, you find an editor that you can just work with that speaks language and receive feedback. Criticism is also a positive tool. Mm-hmm. Have you received feedback from a review that you took to heart and said, I don't like what they said, but they were right? Can you think of an example, or at least how you process that?
Yes, definitely. When I did the first book, and I think it was more from beta readers, I sent it out to readers ahead of time, and several of them said, I'm very short with words. I'm not real flowery. But they said, well, this could have taken place anywhere. Give us a feel for Ireland. It could be in Nevada. You're not immersing us in the scenery. We don't. And so then I sat them down. Moira was in a field waiting for a ghost to appear, and she's observing the sheep in the meadows and those stone walls dividing the land. So I took it to heart, and I did do a lot more of it, describing what the characters were seeing, where they were, to make the scene more of a character in the book. And I think that really helped.
The infamous 5 senses feedback, we've gotten that too. You got to appeal to as many senses as possible in the writing. And it's like, but I just want to tell the story.
Exactly.
So with all of that in mind, are you planning to do more of the children's books about the camping, or are you planning to pivot to something else maybe?
I think I'm leaving the door open to both. I would love to work with the illustrator again. He had just this cool way of doing the characters. He showed me preliminaries, and I went, that looks just like me. That looks just like my sister at that age. And he has little teeny tiny skinny legs on them. They're just adorable. And so I would like to do, and I've been jotting down ideas of camping trips that other people have had these kind of pivotal moments in the camping that turn things around. That's kind of fun. And my mom is 96 and she's an avid reader, and she in the last of the trilogy, one of the sisters marries her sweetheart who has just inherited a castle, and she said they should turn that castle into an Airbnb, and the people that come in are the ones that have ghosts haunting them, and so the ghosts will come to them, and you'll have a different story every week. And so she's planted that seed, and I think I have a lot of work I can do.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah, really. And it's funny because Cece is also dealing with a ghost story romance series, so it's fun to hear. It's fun to hear her words come from you. Let's go ahead and segue over to Act Two, because this has been very fascinating. But let's mosey on over to that. Now, what we did is we took James Lipton's questions from inside the actor's studio and we adapted them to a writing kind of thing. And this is a tool that we hope that people that view this will say kind of connect to the writer as we do this. We sent these questions to you beforehand so you wouldn't be surprised. So giving you a chance to mull them. So the very first of those questions is what was your a real honest to goodness writer moment?
You would think it would be the day I got the author copy back from Amazon, or the box of books that had just been printed, where I could feel them and hold them. But it wasn't, because, as I said earlier, I had written my parents' history, my husband's parents' history, our grandparents' history, and I printed those, self-published them through lulu.com. So I had gotten lots of books that I had written, and so it was kind of anticlimactic, even though it was my first novel, to get, okay, here are the books. But when I was asked by a women's group to be their guest speaker as a visiting author, that was my aha moment, when I was standing in front of a crowd of 65 plus women. That was their age, not the number in the room. There was probably about 30 of them in the room. And I told my story, and they had questions, and they bought my books after that, and they wanted me to sign it, and they wanted me to sit with them at the luncheon after. That was, I've made it. I'm an author, and that was a fun moment. Exactly, the applause felt really good.
Oh yeah, we need that feedback so much.
Yeah, we have very fragile egos. It's a
Yeah.
sad state when you're putting yourself out there like that, and you really crave it.
Yeah, because we keep saying in our podcast that writing is a very internal, private process that somehow ends up in public for everybody to see, and those two dynamics there's nothing in between. It goes straight from private to public very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if the public
Exactly.
ignores it, it's kind of painful. So, who is your writing role model and why?
Well, I thought about that one, and there's one author that I keep going back to because of the one book that she wrote that really stuck with me. I mean, I've read Save the Cat and all of those that you're supposed to read before you write, but Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a book called Big Magic. Have you heard of Big Magic?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I read that, and that's exactly how I write. I mean, there's pantsers and there's plotters, and I am definitely a pantser, because when it comes to writing, I sit down and I start to write just to go through the motions so that the flow can start. And then I feel like it's coming from somewhere else, that I'm getting this guidance and this inspiration about what to say, and then I can type for hours. And when I read Big Magic, I thought, it's a real thing. Other people experience that. And so I take Big Magic with me when I do these talks, and I talk about her experience and how that's how I want to be. I want to be in the flow like Elizabeth Gilbert.
That's such an excellent response. So, what do you love about writing?
I love feeling connected to the characters. I love my characters. And I love even my sister in the camping book, when at the time I didn't love her very much. But now, writing about it, I feel, we've really bonded over a lot of things. She's a writer too, and we've gone past the childhood rivalries and are best friends now. But I love being able to express myself through this medium and having other people say, that's so cool. That should be a movie. You should make that into a movie. That should be a TV series. And so I just love the opportunity to express myself and have other people acknowledge it. That's very rewarding.
That is the best part of writing, I think, is just getting the feedback that you've written something that connects with other people. So, what do you absolutely dread about writing?
That's super easy. Taxes,
Ugh. Ugh.
small business author taxes, having to keep track of every mileage and every book sold. And
Yeah, CFO here. Yeah, I feel your pain.
we're in the middle of it right now. And I have to pay extra to TurboTax to walk me through it every time. And the other big piece is marketing. I scoured through Spotify to find podcasters who were interviewing individual indie authors and found you guys and a couple others that I've been interviewed by. It's so hard. And I know that even if you are published traditionally, most of the marketing still falls on you. I mean, I go out to sign up for all the book fairs locally. I'm in all the local bookstores. I show up for book signings. And I love the actual being there and talking to people about my books. But just the effort of trying to do all that all the time and putting stuff on TikTok and putting stuff on Facebook and trying to always be out there finding an audience is exhausting and it's not fun.
No, we feel your
We
pain.
agree.
Oh, we feel your pain so much on both of those. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what single significant life experience affects your writing, good or bad?
I have both. Which do you want to hear first?
Hit us.
Well, the good one I already mentioned basically was how much I had done genealogy and family history work and researched my ancestors and continue to do so and continue to find stories that I can share through the ghost stories. And that's like just a treasure trove of information that I've been digging into forever. The difficult one is that I am now a caregiver to my spouse who has Parkinson's. And that's a very demanding job. It's my full-time job now. So I only get snatches of time. And you would think, well, I'll just get up earlier. But if I get a chance to sleep sometimes, I'm going to sleep. So that has, as we've seen the disease progress, that has taken up more and more and cut into more and more of the writing ability. So that's why I'm really grateful that I was able to get the 3 books written and the picture book done when I did. Because if I were to start that now, it would not be happening. So I'm just kind of taking it as I can, a little bit at a time.
Oh, good priorities. Good priorities, and definitely our sympathies.
Yes,
Thanks.
that's a very hard experience. But you also mentioned that your sister is a writer. So the next question is, would you recommend the writing life to a loved one and why?
Anybody, loved or hated, I would say you need to write. You need to get those feelings out. You need to explore more through writing. And anybody can benefit from it. I have as I said, my daughter is also a writer, and she encouraged her niece to write, and so her niece, as her high school senior project, wrote a vampire story and sent it to my daughter and I to kind of proofread and edit for her. And so we did that. It's so neat to see this young woman who has a lot of challenges in life be able to find that medium to express herself and to accomplish it with such grace. It was really fun. So yeah, even if you're just journal writing, I mean, I went through Julia Campbell's writing course. What's hers called? She has The Vein of Gold, but she also has another book that talks about daily pages, daily writing, where you just write for 20 minutes nonstop, just writing freestyle. And it's very cathartic and it's very empowering to go inward and make it come outward.
Yeah, especially as a pantser, because that's right in your wheelhouse.
Right.
You sit down and you've already got the words ready to go. Not like plotters who have to write, script. Obviously, I'm the pantser. She's the plotter still. Okay, so this could be a fun question. What is something unexpected in your past that we won't see in your bio?
That stumped me because I have one more work that I'm working on, one more project. I'm writing a memoir, and no holds barred. I mean, I'm putting everything in there. And, well, I put everything in an autobiography I wrote that just went to the family. And now I'm pulling from that the vein that I'm working on for the memoir. But I feel like I'm an open book and everything's been already said out there. I don't know. I've lived kind of a sheltered life. My parents didn't divorce. We grew up idyllically in childhood. I got horses to ride when I was a kid. I married an army officer and saw the world. And, we've traveled. I've hiked the Alps. I've whitewater rafted in New Zealand. I saw Federer play at the Australian Open. We just had a wonderful full life, and I can't think of anything that people don't know about me at this point.
Do you have some sort of, interesting, are you a Star Trek fan? Are you a Star Wars fan? Something like that, because that's a universal fiction.
Yeah. My husband is. I will watch them with him, but I'm just not a science fiction person. I don't know. It's just not too unbelievable for me, I guess. I don't know what it is about science fiction that I get bored with, but maybe that's something that people don't know about me. I'm one of the few that don't love science fiction.
No, that's completely valid, because sometimes in science fiction, the writers get caught up on the fantastic and they forget the people part of the story.
Yeah.
So totally understandable.
But I am into mysteries. I mean, of course, with the ghost stories and mysteries, I do love mysteries. And when I was just learning to read, when I was in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I gravitated to the mystery stories, Trixie Belden, Nancy Drew. And here's something that everyone knows. I had my own detective agency when I was 10 with my best friend. It was the Grant Churchville Detective Agency. And we rode our bikes around this little town in Massachusetts solving crime. We did a lot of things we shouldn't have. Like, there was a car parked in our meadow where we went to sit by the river, and there was a car there. I'm sure he was out hunting or fishing or something. And it was very suspicious. So we went inside his car, rifled through his glove box, looking for clues and identification. And we could have been in big trouble if we hadn't been found. But that's what detectives do, and we were just doing our thing. So anyway,
Yes.
that was our fun.
That sounds exactly like something Nancy Drew would have done, because she was always getting into trouble.
Yeah, she was my mentor at the time.
Honestly, that sounds like that could be a book series in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we let you go, Gail, tell us where we can find you. Tell us where you are on the internet. Tell us where we can find your books.
Okay, I am at gailgrantpark.com, and there's a tab at the top called Purchase Links, and there are links there that will get you discounts to my books, especially the camping book. This is the Rain or Shine, It's Camping Time, and that you get $5 off on that one. And the series is We Are Shadows, an Irish ghost story, is book 1, and The Body in Brunaboyna is book 2. That one, I took a trip to Ireland at the end of We Are Shadows, and everything I saw in Ireland went into book 2. And then the third one, A Haunting at Hawthorne. And those are all on Amazon. And through Ingram Spark, I publish so that they can get into libraries and bookstores. So I'm on Facebook as Creative Writing, and TikTok, Gail Grant Park 12 on TikTok.
Excellent.
But mostly I'm just on my website now.
Excellent. So, any last thoughts before we let you go?
Nope, just keep on writing and keep on reading. I think reading is the best thing you can do to learn about other people and other cultures, and just increase your vocabulary and be a more well-rounded person.
Excellent.
Great advice.
So again, this has been CCJT, and we've had the honor and pleasure of having Gail Grant Park on our little show. Our little show, the CCJT Amateur Hour, is an award-winning podcast that features not only our own, blathering, so to speak, talking about our own books and our own adventures, but we invite writers like Gail here to come on, and we learn about them, but we also learn how much we have in common. We also do a second podcast, which is the Nevada Author Network, which highlights independent writers here in Northern Nevada. We partner with the Sierra Arts Foundation out of Reno, Nevada, and the Sierra Arts Literary Community to highlight independent writers, fantastic, talented writers here in northern Nevada. We want to thank Gail, and we want to thank our colleagues who have appeared and who have yet to appear on our podcast. It has just been an invigorating, energizing process. So thank you, Gail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everybody, take care. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.